There's still a massive stigma going on in society towards mental health. Even though it should never be the case, mental health should always be treated just like how biological health, physical health is being treated. I see this a lot, especially with traditionally minded people, where they view mental health as this taboo. Traditionally minded people view mental health as, because due to the fact that they are unable to view mental health directly, just like in, for example, when you have a physical disorder and it's apparent, they interpret mental health disorders and conditions as illusions. It's always the viewpoint where if I don't see it, then it doesn't exist. From my personal experience, I'm someone who grew up with epilepsy, which is a very common neurological condition. It's not directly apparent because there are so many forms of epilepsy out there, but that doesn't deny its existence. I've had it ever since I was just an infant. And so, outside of my immediate family, which is towards society, I was viewed as this crazy lady simply due to their lack of knowledge, lack of enlightenment. Hence, why it's very important to always spread awareness and put mental health awareness out there for people to learn about, for people to feel what the other person who has such a condition feels. But I'm glad we're gradually waking up to the various stigmas surrounding mental health and neurological cases. However, there's an issue I would like to pinpoint towards mental health issues and disorders specifically, which is that because certain disorders in mental health have become so stigmatized, for the person who has it living in such a society, that person has to battle with so much taboo and stigma surrounding his or her disorder, to the point that they may withdraw from treatment simply because they don't want to be seen as someone who's insane or something's wrong with them. Because it's never the case. You don't just go up to a sick person and tell them, why are you sick? Be happy. Life is short. And all of that. Because that oftentimes doesn't work, obviously. You can't just come up to someone and tell them to just change. Because it is a real disorder. It is what they're experiencing. And it's not a joke simply because you don't see it that way. Simply because you are not experiencing that disorder, that you think, oh, it's an illusion and I can just argue with them and convince them that nothing is wrong with them. No. Mental health disorders exist just as much as physical disorders do, and it shouldn't be treated otherwise. Of course, I will continue advocating for mental health for as long as I'm alive, and help those who are suffering in one way or another. I believe we should change certain mental health disorders who have received a lot of stigma to the degree that patients aren't willing to receive the proper treatment they need due to the fear of being judged as someone who is insane. And so naturally they would withdraw because they don't identify with the disorder. They have the condition, but they are not the condition itself. If we decide to rename certain mental health disorders in a less stigmatized manner, names who are rather neutral and don't signify names which have been used countlessly, especially around the media and everywhere around the globe, as these names who have been so miscommonly used to the point that it drives the person who actually has the condition away from treatment. We should aim to rename these conditions with neutral names which don't signify anything hazardous or anything that drives them away from their own personality and what they believe in and their values. It should be a neutral sounding name for a particular set of conditions which have been stigmatized in our society. Because if the condition has been renamed, a new neutral sounding name, the patient will be encouraged more to unravel their disorder and understand why they act and think like the way they often do and help with this pervasive issue that they have. Multicultural societies have ingrained into their cultures ideology that if I don't see it, then I can't believe it, which should be true to a certain extent, of course, because you need evidence, you need proof, you need to see that the condition you have exists. You can't just blindly believe it. Of course, you need to get checked out, you need to see what's going on with you, you need to understand yourself more. Because if we don't try to understand ourselves on a scientific and artistic degree, then who are we really? Art and science are two polar opposite forms of comprehending oneself towards one's journey. And I believe that's very beautiful.